I go where I am known. I go where I'm not an illusion. Where I go, I've noticed. Everybody goes there. Everybody goes there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Around Town TV. My name is 𝗓𝘂𝗏 𝗧𝗏, Minnesota's lifestyle and business experts. We've been bringing you the best kept secrets, businesses, organizations, and people since 2003. We are the Twin Cities' longest airing television community showcase. And tonight, my special guest is no stranger to the show. Please welcome Tamara D. Block, the attorney at law in Minnesota, South Dakota, and Tennessee. Welcome, Tamara.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you back. And tonight I'm excited as we get into some pitfalls and just things that people need to know when it comes to estates and small businesses. But first and foremost, for those who maybe haven't caught you on a previous show, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your history and background and how you ended up in the law field.
Sure. So I'm licensed in South Dakota, born and raised in South Dakota, went to the University of South Dakota. And when I was growing up, I was very blessed. My grandfather knew everybody. I'm from Rapid City, knew anybody and everybody. And one of his golfing buddies was a judge. I got to know him. He mentored me, got me interested in the law in middle school. And I knew that was always what I wanted to do. So I went to the University of South Dakota and then left South Dakota, went to Chicago and went to law school at DePaul. Left DePaul and came here. And as I told you earlier this evening, I fell into estate planning, coming to Minnesota. And I've been in estate planning and nonprofits and small business law for 25 years.
Well, and for those who may or may not be aware, Tammy handled my late parents' estate, and she also did the trademark for Leaders and Achievers of America. She is basically in charge of the Beaurline Family Foundation, which is a nonprofit based on her experience, and has an extensive background also in business development. But tonight we're going to talk about what she does with wills, estate planning, small businesses, all of it. And to get the party started, so to speak, let's talk about what hits people with funeral expenses.
This is so interesting because I just had this conversation with my own parents this past weekend. Our family members do all of this planning to make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible after they should pass, which, includes putting into place, like we talked about before, wills, trusts, those types of things. One of the things that often gets missed is there needs to be liquid assets available, because once a person passes away, everything gets frozen, especially if they're retired and they've been getting Social Security checks to a bank account. Social Security office notifies the bank account. It's frozen. And so prepaying your funeral expenses is a great option. Otherwise, it falls upon your loved ones to front the money. Funeral homes don't allow people to wait until estates are settled, and sometimes those take a while. And I know that there are some, funeral homes that will tell people, oh, your estate can pay for it. But the estate will only reimburse the family members after the family members have paid for it. So I always say, if you feel comfortable, prepaying funeral expenses is a great gift to your family. The other thing it does too is if you're prepaying, you get locked in at today's price.
Right.
So, when we were chatting about it, when I was chatting about it with my parents this weekend, I mean, it's increased $3,000 for a minimal funeral in just the past 10 years.
Wow.
So only imagine, how much further it's going to go. And so by locking in, you're actually saving your estate and your family money. So I always, even though I'm not a funeral home, I don't get anything from it, I do encourage my clients, if they do feel comfortable, they know what they want, prepay those funeral expenses. It's going to save your family that one extra, oh my gosh, now I have to come up with $12,000. Mom or dad just passed away a week ago and now we have to find $12,000. So great gift to your family. and
Right.
economical for your estate.
Well, and for those who maybe don't have the 12,000 right now, or one of the things that's very important too that I have found, and I was thankful my parents did, was they told me everything they wanted. And my dad did not want a traditional. So thank goodness Leopold's Mississippi Gardens hosted my dad's service during COVID. They were wonderful, but we followed the COVID rules, and by doing something like that, it was really, it was not only what he wanted, but it was affordable. But I knew that's what he wanted, so I'd planned for that and had the money put aside, for what you're saying. But a lot less than a funeral home.
Well, and we do in our packets when we have our clients sign their documents. I created a few years ago, it's just a 3-page worksheet where
Mhm.
you can put all of those things. And I've even had some of, talk about Minnesota down home. I've had especially some of my older women like what they want for the church dinner.
Oh,
So
yes.
it's, it does help your family. What songs they want to be
Mhm.
sung, if they are having memorial, what readings do they want? Who do they want their pallbearers to be?
Mhm.
So all of those things that, when we're dealing with that grief, having to make those decisions, it can be decision overload. So we do include that in our packet for our clients.
Well, and I appreciate that. I can say this, Tammy can't, but we just did my will and updated healthcare directive and all that, and that's some of the stuff I'm working on, including some other topics we're going to talk about. Let's switch gears a little bit, because I know one of the things I promoted this show about was some of the pitfalls that can happen, and senior citizen property tax deferral in Minnesota being one of those.
So this is a unique program. We do not have this in South Dakota or Tennessee. And so senior citizens in the state of Minnesota are allowed to do a property tax deferral. There's a lot of misunderstanding around this. I have learned. I'm actually going through an estate right now where I don't represent the personal representative, but I represent a family member who ironically lives in Tennessee, but it's a probate here in Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
And it truly was the gentleman that passed away. It was his understanding it was deferred and forgiven. And so now we're in the process of selling the home as part of the estate. There's a $80,000 tax bill because he had that deferment for a number of years.
Wow.
So these programs are good. If you're living, especially that house had been paid for, it'd been in the family for 2 generations. He was on a limited income, so he didn't have the money for the property taxes. So they do have their place.
Right.
But just be aware it's not free money. It is going to come back. And so if you are looking at one of those for your parents, or you're looking at one of those for yourself, be sure that your family members are aware, because it becomes kind of a surprise when all this said and you find out there's an $80,000 tax bill that wasn't expected on top of some of the other selling costs. So again, not free money. Great program if you need it to stay within your home, but be aware and make your family aware that will have to be paid upon that home being sold upon your passing.
Well, it's different. I'm assuming the same impact would come from a reverse mortgage.
Reverse mortgages, I've had to deal with reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages are, again, they're good. They're a tool that can be used, especially again, if you don't have cash, your house is paid for, and you need something to live on, and you want to stay in that home. The couple of times that I have dealt with it, the hard problem has been they've also had an adult child living with them as a caregiver.
Oh, wow.
And what happens is, the way the reverse mortgages are written, if you ever should have to remove the owner of the home to an assisted living facility, that reverse mortgage is payable now.
Oh, wow.
And oftentimes that caregiver doesn't have the money for that. So then the house has to be sold to pay the reverse mortgage. So there are very strict limitations on those reverse mortgages on whom can live in the house during the reverse mortgage time. So if it's just going to be the owners of the home living there, It's a great tool to get them cash to continue to age in their home, which I think is so important. Let's keep people in their homes. It's where they're most comfortable. They stay better cognitively. I'm a huge advocate for having my clients stay in their homes as long as they can safely. And but however, if you do have someone else, an adult child that is a caregiver specifically, staying with you once that person is moved, or if that person should pass away, that reverse mortgage is due within 90 days. So it doesn't give that person a lot of time to move and to find another location. So just be wary of those, especially using them if you do have other family members living in the home.
Oh, thank you for that information. It doesn't also, I know our Affordable Health Care Act and our MNsure programs here in Minnesota, they have tax credit for those who have special incomes where maybe they don't hit a certain income where they can get health care and a tax credit towards that health care. But isn't that attached to homes as well if they have a home or asset?
Yeah. So that's not necessarily attached to a home, but what is attached to a home is in addition to the tax credits they get for healthcare, elderly 65 and older can literally get everything paid for without health insurance. So it's medical assistance, especially if they're going into assisted living or they're having home health care. And so it's Medicaid. There's different types of Medicaid. So there's Medicaid for people that are under 65 that are at, a lower income, or there's Medicaid for children or adults that are disabled. But there's also Medicaid, we call it elderly waiver medical assistance in the state of Minnesota. All states, Tennessee and South Dakota, have this as well, because one component of it is federal, one component is state. And so what the federal government has told all states is, here are the minimums of what you must recoup. Here are the rules. I will tell you, Minnesota is the most aggressive and takes it to the next level. So there are a few planning tools that we can do, but they need to be done well in advance. So in all 3 states, from the day you apply for medical assistance, they do an audit going back 5 years. So they look to see if you gave away your home. They look to see if you've given away big gifts, because what they do then is they'll deny the medical assistance until that has been replaced. And oftentimes these people that are going on medical assistance, that's the only way they're going to pay for their care, because it's above and beyond MNsure or Medicare or anything like that. So it's above and beyond that. The issue with medical assistance that we run into a lot is we'll have a married couple, and one of them is the one that needs the medical assistance. And there's all sorts of rules about how much you have to spend down for the person that's getting the assistance for the married couple themselves. But the one thing that is consistent in all 3 states is that there is what I call a quiet lien in the background. And it's not just a lien against your home, it's a lien against your estate. So what often happens is the caseworkers, again, trying to help their clients, their patients get the care that they need, will just give them the application and say, okay, we're at the point where you're eligible for medical assistance to help pay for your assisted living. This is something that the state offers you, let's apply. But they don't tell those people, and what often comes as a surprise, not to the married couple because it attaches to the second to die, is the family then all of a sudden goes to close the estate, and there's this huge lien that takes the entire estate. I had one, it was devastating. It was in 2021. It was a young gentleman. He was about 30, had a wife and a baby, and he was doing the probate for his father, but his father had lived in the house that his grandparents had lived in. And so what had happened is grandma and grandpa had lived in that house since the 50s. Grandpa ended up having medical assistance, which again, and I'm going to get on a soapbox here. This one was so hard for me because he was a veteran. And I was like, why does a veteran have to go on medical assistance? Why are we not paying his care? So that's a slight tangent, but I know you and I are on the same page on that. So they encouraged grandma to, apply for medical assistance. Great. Now we're going to get him the care he needs. So he passes away in 2001.
Oh.
Grandma continues to live in the house. In the meantime, son moves into the house to help take care of grandma, right? His mom. So
Mhm.
grandma passes away in 2016. Then dad continues to live in the house. Dad passes away in 2020. So now grandson has this house that he has spent a whole bunch of money and time cleaning out, fixing up, and getting ready for sale. Guess what? The medical assistance lien was more than the value of the house. And the county and the state, following Minnesota's rules, said to him, the only things you can be reimbursed for are your attorney's fees. I got it after another attorney because I was advocating for him with the county, and the other attorney that opened the probate wouldn't do that.
Wow.
So I was able to be paid for my time advocating. I was able to get him some funeral expenses reimbursed, and I was able to only get him $5,000 for everything. In the meantime, this poor young man, due to COVID, lost his job. They downsized. And he had spent tens of thousands of dollars in all of these hours getting this house ready, just to find out we just needed to hand it over to the state because he wasn't going to get anything. And this was a lien that had been there for 20 years.
And is
So
there a way
again,
to find out if you have a lien on your home?
I just actually had to work very diligently again in Dakota County. I had a client and I'm actually going to send it to her. I had met with her and she said, I know my husband was on medical assistance. I've tried and tried and tried to see if there's a lien. Can I get an inventory, whatever? So after 3 months, I had said to her, I go, I've tried. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it. I did just get it. I'm going to send it to her. It's this thick. They don't total it up for you. They just send you an itemized list. And so, yes, you are entitled to that. It often takes a while to get it,
Mhm.
but you are entitled to it. And as I said, in Minnesota, we have some ways to
Mhm.
protect, but you have to do it far in advance. Tennessee is more liberal. They allow us other ways that allow more flexibility with assets for our clients, and still protect assets from what they call 10 care there is what they call it, 10 care there.
Okay.
Here we call it medical assistance. And in South Dakota, they also have, they're pretty close to Tennessee. They allow more tools than Minnesota does to do some of that protection. So it's trying to
Mhm.
get ahead of it. None of us
Mhm.
know when something is going to happen to us. And that is the worst conversation I had to have with people, because I'm not blaming, I'm not shaming, but when they come to me and they only have so much in assets and it's not going to get them past that 5 years,
Yeah.
there's not much we can do as far as gifting and that type of thing.
Wow, that's so sad. Switching gears because you brought up
Yeah.
Tennessee, I know one of
Yeah.
the pitfalls there for small businesses, which you
Yes.
also do, is the conservatorship. Let's talk about that and what that
Yes.
is.
Yes. So for those of us that are small business owners, Carla and myself, I've always preached succession planning. We don't want those small businesses to go through probate in order to get them liquidated or whatever might be done. Tennessee passed a couple of years ago, and a lot of small business owners don't know this. And they always preach to us as estate planning attorneys, well, your clients won't have to go through this because you've taken care of it, which is true. I make
Mhm.
sure all of my my small business clients, we have a succession plan. But Tennessee instituted that if you do not have a succession plan within your estate plan, and you are in probate, you go to probate, and one of your assets that you list is a small business, and they come back and say, so you didn't have a succession plan. They have a program in place where they list a conservator. That
Mm.
conservator only needs to be a licensed attorney. They do not need to know your area. So, for instance, you might have a licensed attorney running a restaurant. You might have a licensed attorney that has never done anything with real estate, running a real estate firm.
Mm.
And their sole goal is to run that until it is sold.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, there are instances where by the time it can get sold, because that attorney didn't really understand the business, now it's lost value. And
And
there are
gone
some
under.
attorneys that really take it to heart. There's a woman I know in Nashville that she really works hard. She'll go into that restaurant, she'll bring the management team, she'll bring in experts. But the reason she can do that is because these attorneys are paid probably about 25% of their regular hourly rates. and it takes a lot of hours away from your business. Well, she
Mhm.
belongs to a big firm that then continues to keep her salary the same, but then get the smaller amount from the county as a service to the county.
Oh,
So she
wow.
is few and
Okay.
far between. So a lot of times it's attorneys that don't have the expertise. They don't have tons of time, but they're picking it up as a little bit of extra income.
Mhm.
We all do that at times, no matter what our jobs are.
Right.
So they're not bringing in all of the experts. And so those businesses, they lose value, and sometimes the family gets a lot less than what they were supposed to. So
Wow.
if you are doing an estate plan with an attorney and you do have a business, whether it's Tennessee or here, but particularly in Tennessee,
Mhm.
please be sure to put together the succession plan. And it's very easy to do. It's, either having a signer on your bank account that has the authority then as a signer for the business to close down that bank account.
Mhm.
Having a legal agent for your business with the account with the state that can shut down the business with the state.
Mm.
So some of them are very little simple things to do, but they can create a lot of issues on the back end if not done.
Good to know. And I know we've started talking about that as well when we met because you're already handling the Beaurline Family Foundation. So, and being a solopreneur, it's, I didn't even really think of that. You just think you're invincible but then you realize very quickly you're not. Um, Power of attorney. I was
Yes.
my parents' power of attorney, but for those who don't even understand how important that is, what it is, the why, let's touch on that.
Yeah. So power of attorney, I tell all of my clients, a lot of times things will fall into place. Like healthcare directives, even with HIPAA, doctors will still defer to spouses and adult children.
Mhm.
Even if you don't have a will, it doesn't go to the state. I tell the people, don't panic. There is a backup plan.
Mhm.
But powers of attorney are so powerful because no one can access your bank accounts while you're living if you're incapacitated, not even a spouse.
Mhm.
I'll get a lot of married couples saying, well, why do I need a power of attorney? I have a spouse. Well, is your spouse on your retirement plan? No. So they can't get information, they can't access it. So
Mhm.
the power of attorney document, in my opinion, is the most powerful and the most important. But the thing to remember that I have so many people come to me, they think that that power of attorney continues on after the person passes away.
Mm.
And so it's very important to remember that power of attorney becomes null and void when that person passes away that you are the power of attorney for. And so
Mhm.
they get frustrated because they think everything is taken care of. I'm going to be able to go to the bank. So again, that's where those signers on your bank account or payable on your bank account, that's where those come into play because it allows people those liquid assets to pay funeral expenses or those last bills that need to be paid. And people misunderstand and think the power of attorney is going to allow them to do that. And it is not. So you need to have those other
Mm.
tools in place.
Got it. Got it. And I know for me, I was thankful that I was the power of attorney because as my dad went quick, I still wanted him to be able to make the final decision that, yes, I am going into hospice and sign the papers, but I was able to tee it up. So when we brought him home, we didn't have to wait we were able to keep things rolling. And same with mom. One of the things I did learn that you made mention of is while they're alive, because I was their caregiver, all they had to say, even without the power of attorney, is to their medical doctors, is she is one of our emergency contacts. Yes, she can be. They just verbally had to say, and then they write that in the my chart. And so I was able to talk to the nurses through the HIPAA laws for both parents, be their healthcare advocate, log into their my chart, all of that because of that. So that one's a little bit easier, but it's still so much better if you have the power of attorney to have both. Because you'll have to do both.
Yeah.
Power of attorney won't automatically let you talk to the doctors or anything. So
Right.
that I also wanted to talk about one thing that I know is an ugly, ugly word, the probate process. People hate it. I know. I'm
Uh,
just yes.
I
She's laughing.
laugh because I will tell you there are times I do recommend my clients go through probate.
Ah.
I unfortunately have a client I talked to last week that I've had for a few years that her life expectancy with her diagnosis, she probably won't make it to see the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
And she has a circumstance where she has 5 children and 3 of those children are married. And so she wanted to talk about a transfer on death deed, which we had talked about before, which was like a beneficiary designation for your home, which then allows your home to transfer without probate. I have seen time and time again, in this case, you would have to have the spouses and the kids. All 8 of them would have to agree on a realtor, on a price. All 8 of them would have to sign the closing documents. And that becomes more of a nightmare than probate. Probate has gotten this horrible, horrible reputation. I tell people, this is why you'll see all the bad things that people put in reviews. You don't see the good things. And that's what you hear about probate as well.
Right.
So probate is literally proving of the will. And if you have your I's dotted and your T's crossed in your will, you can go through it very smoothly here in Minnesota. I'm going to give, I'm sure my Hennepin County probate registrars are not on this. I am going to give them the biggest kudos. And I'm not going to put them under pressure. If you are in Hennepin County and you have a will and it's informal probate and it's very cut and dry, we can be done with probate in 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh my gosh, I was thinking years.
Hennepin County has it down to a science. The other counties
with a will.
With a will.
Okay.
Even without a will, as long as it's cut and dry, we don't have people fighting. Hennepin County can get you through in 10 to 12 weeks. They have this phenomenal process that they are trying to push out to all the counties in the state. It would be wonderful. Because the other thing is every county has a different probate process, and it's not just in Minnesota. It's also in Tennessee, South Dakota. Every county is the same.
Oh, wow.
In Minnesota and Tennessee, I have to have a cheat sheet depending on the county. Tennessee has started to do some of what Minnesota does to make it easy in Davidson County, which is Nashville. So they've started doing the electronic process too. It's a little bit more cumbersome, but I give them kudos because they are the first county in Tennessee to do it.
Great.
But it's not something to be afraid of. And so, like I said, I try to avoid it as much as possible because it is extra paperwork. It is an extra thing, but there are times where it's going to be better.
Oh, good to know.
It's going to protect the estate better. And so don't be afraid of it, but be sure that your estate planning attorney explains it to you and has looked at all the options. And made sure that that is the option, and that they have everything done correctly so it does go smoothly.
Oh, that is fantastic. One thing that's just sparked, and it wasn't necessarily on our topics to talk about, but a big mistake that many people make when someone dies is, spouse, children, is they pay off the credit cards.
Yes.
It's unsecured debt. No. Some will say, well, I did it because, of his reputation. He's deceased. There is no reputation.
Yes. So this is what I tell spouses in the state of Minnesota. The only debt you are responsible for your spouse is medical debt. Even though that's unsecured, you are responsible. There's also a little one that's called, necessary house. So like, for instance, if that spouse that passed away put a water heater that the surviving spouse is still living in the house on credit, you have to pay that, but that's a very small one. And so what often happens with our widows and widowers, I just met with one of my clients this afternoon. His wife had passed away late last year. And he was smart enough to give me a call because he started getting these very nice letters. Oh, Mr. Smith, we're so, condolences on the passing of your wife. We want to know how, X amount is going to be paid. And so the only thing that needs to be paid are joint, secured, which is mortgage, that medical and whatever. Nothing else needs to be paid. And I will tell you, they will try, and they do it with the children, adult children as well. So if you go through probate, this is one of the cons of probate. If you do go through probate, then those unsecured creditors can come forward and ask for their debt to be paid. However, there are certain assets that are always protected. In the state of Minnesota, it's the homestead. So that's for spouse and children. So as long as spouse and or children, even adult children, are inheriting, homestead is protected against unsecured creditors. one vehicle and then an allowance. There is an
Oh, wow.
allowance. So those unsecured creditors can't take everything. And that is the one quote downfall to probate is open to those creditors, but it isn't the individual. So a lot of times there isn't probate with a spouse. Everything is joint or it goes to them.
Mhm.
And so that's where it's most important that the spouse knows, please, please don't pay those. The
Right.
children, we might have to go through probate, then the estate might have to pay it, but not the children. The children
Okay.
are not liable for it personally. So please don't pay that out of your pocket.
So good to know.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you for that. Wills and safekeeping. I know I called you earlier on this. So before I let you know, I want you to get into this as well. Someone just wrote, oh, Mary, I didn't know that. Mary Quist Newens.
Oh,
just
hey,
Mary.
Mary.
Our state attorney and excellent. Well, of course, good people go to good people.
Thank you.
Mary's one of my faves. Yes, she is. She's mine too. I know both of you. Hi, ladies. David Dudash. Good to see you. Love him. I got to meet him as well when we were in Florida.
I'm in Florida. Sunny Florida.
Yes. What I was going to say. So I have a dear, dear friend who posted every day on Facebook. A bunch of us knew something was wrong because he hadn't posted. He'd also looked sickly, but didn't have health care. So didn't, go to the doctor because despite what people think, when you are self-employed and you make too much, nothing is covered. And they will give you the 20% discount, but you have to have it all there. And sometimes they won't even do that. But anyway, I digress. So what happened was he had an estranged sister. And he did have a will. Everybody knew the will. Nobody's had copies of it. When the police did a welfare check and he was deceased, of course, they call the sister. Sister comes into the house, takes everything, takes the will. There's no will. I called Tammy and I'm like, well, where is it registered? Tammy said, it's not. And so I will let you talk about will safekeeping. And what you told me is to make sure everybody who's in it has a copy.
I shared with Carla, we went through this. My dad's stepdad, who was a grandpa to me, they had married before I was born. He and my grandmother lived in Idaho, and my grandmother passed away before he did. And he met this woman and married this woman, and they had a sizable estate in Idaho, and he never had any children of his own. So my dad and my uncle were considered his kids, and us grandkids were considered his grandkids. And he had told both my dad and my uncle, everything is going to you except for specific gifts to the grandkids. And he married this woman. And I think he was married to her for less than 2 years, and he passed away. It took them forever to even get his ashes back to South Dakota because he wanted to be buried with my grandmother. And then the will miraculously disappeared, and we didn't know who the attorney was. We didn't know any of that. So I said to Carla, I know this feeling. And my dad called and said the same thing. Well, where's it recorded? So there is a way to record wills in the state of Minnesota, not Tennessee, not South Dakota, but it's very cumbersome. And so the problem with it is if you record your will with the county, the probate county, anytime you make any update to that will, and you have to pay for that service, you have to pay to get it back, and then you have to record it again. And if you make any changes to your will and you did not pull that will from the probate, then your changes are null and void.
Okay.
So what I recommend to clients is I always give them their originals. They own their originals. I make an attorney certified copy, which means I can do an affidavit saying I drafted this, I notarized this, I was the one that made the copy. This is a true copy. I make sure that they have their personal representative also have a copy. That being said, if they go to another attorney and they have a different will written, I'm dealing with a client right now. That's my client. And that happened is literally within days of his father passing, the will was changed and drastically changed. And he never had a copy. He didn't even know what the changes were. So things like that can happen. And there are times where I will have clients, actually have one in Tennessee I'm going to be meeting with. The circumstance, I'm a little worried. So we're going to sign duplicate originals. So she will have an original and I will have an original. And the personal representative will get a copy.
And
So
when you say personal representative, who's that?
that's what we used to call the executor. So for whatever reason, they changed the name, which is so
Okay.
funny because when I go out to get tax IDs for estates, the
Right.
IRS asks me, are they a personal representative or an executor? It's the same thing. And
Okay.
all states call them personal representatives now. But what we traditionally think of as executors, they changed to personal representative, which I think is very confusing because executor makes sense, but that's what they're officially called now. So that's your executor is the one we would want them to have a copy.
Got it.
But I try to make sure I have an attorney certified. And if I am a little worried about certain situations, I will sign duplicate originals.
Interesting. Good. Well, thank you. So
Yeah.
the next one, pets.
Hey, Mimi.
Hey, Mimi. You're on.
Mama.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I brought up, thank you. I love you too, sweetie. I brought this up to Tammy last week when we met to discuss my both healthcare directive will, updated my will and everything. And pets, I'm like, what about Mimi? And what if she outlives me? And what that means. And I know you wanted to discuss pets and what we should be, how that all works.
Right. And they're near and dear to my heart. My lazy one, she was at doggy daycare today, so she's sacked out over here. Otherwise, she's usually got her head. It is, to me, as Carla knows, I used to foster dogs. We have rescued all of our dogs. Animals are just a passion of mine. So it is so important for my unmarried clients for us to have a plan. And so whether that's a plan with somebody else, or there are some of my clients where I am their personal representative, I'm their trustee, I'm their power of attorney, whatever that might be. And so I always want to know, okay, where do we want these pets to go? I need a key to your house. I need the code. So it's not just where they're going to go. It's also making sure that somebody can get into your home.
Right.
It's, because to get sometimes, and I know they mean well, but sometimes to get police or fire and they're just trying to keep everything as it should be. They don't want people coming and stealing things or anything like that. So it's having that in place. And some people will include it in their will. I tell people, then be sure your personal representative has it, because remember that will nothing happens to that until we go through probate. So those pets need immediate assistance.
Right.
And we want to be sure there is somebody that they know, because they just lost their mom or dad.
And they know. I let Mimi be a part of the journey and home hospice for both parents. She knew. She could smell that they weren't there, that their soul's gone to heaven. But she grieved for both of them.
Absolutely. And so we don't want to send them to a shelter. We just don't. So be sure that, like I said, I have somebody that never had, as my husband, never had dogs before, and these two have created a bond, which is hilarious. And so, heaven forbid if something happens to me, I know, but if something happens to both of us, our neighbors have access to our house until, my son or my daughter can get here from out of state to, and my stepdaughter can get here, in 3 hours, but they would have immediate access. It's somebody that she's always known. They have dogs that she knows. So I say it's always important for it to be somebody they know and feel comfortable. I know sometimes people will go, oh, my sister that lives in California, but if they don't feel comfortable, they're grieving, and they're going to have to also go through that grieving process, and it helps them if it's somebody they know.
And if you can, let's say someone was rushed in an ambulance to the hospital and passed there, bring the dog to the funeral home. Bring the dog, if you can't, even to the hospital. Let them smell the body and know that their loved one is gone. They know. Otherwise, they wonder and feel like they've been abandoned.
Absolutely. And that's part of the other reason to have somebody that knows, because unfortunately, not all funeral homes and unfortunately not all hospitals will allow those pets in. And so if you're in a circumstance like that, it is so important for them not to feel abandoned by someone else that they feel familiar with, and not stuck among strangers or stuck
Great advice.
in all somewhere.
Absolutely. Crypto.
So crypto is great, but not great. Crypto does not have any federal regulations about having beneficiaries or anything like that. It's not a true asset. So even our cryptocurrency, the ones that are at the forefront, do not have a way to assign a beneficiary. And so the only way for crypto to be passed along is for someone to know how to access your crypto account.
Wow.
There are some places, and I've learned so much about crypto going through probate and those types of things. There are some cryptocurrency entities that will allow it to pass with probate papers to a new account. I don't know how they do that, since the way crypto is created, you can't access it. But the other thing also, and what they usually do if it goes through probate, they make that new owner immediately liquidate it. They aren't allowed to keep it as an investment, which is fine. I mean, it's a gift to the new owner. But I also learned, having gone through recently a probate with a client of mine, her husband had 2 crypto accounts that we had to go through probate for. One of those, they couldn't even liquidate because the crypto it's not solvent.
Oh.
So it's actually going through a bankruptcy because crypto is so new and there are so few federal regulations around it. You have crypto starting up every which direction.
Right.
So I'm meeting with some clients of mine on Thursday that are younger clients of mine, and they have a lot in crypto. They were early investors. They've done a really good job about it. And I'm just harping on, because it's the husband, in the husband's name. I'm harping on him. Okay, please be sure that she knows how to get in, because if she can't get in, because the whole deal with crypto is it's so secure that even the crypto company can't get into your account in any way, shape, or form. So it's not like a bank where if you go to the bank and you have all the right things, they can get into your account. A crypto account, they can't. They just truly can't get in. So if you have cryptocurrency, please, I talk about passwords, making sure that somebody knows where your passwords are. It makes their life so much easier to be able to shut things down or keep things going rather than having to go through probate to get access to things. Crypto, if they don't know, it could be a lot of money just out the window. So please be sure they know all of your crypto wallet, I think it's called, your crypto wallet information, so they then just take over as the owner.
Well, and one of the last things I wanted to bring up was the passwords, which you just brought up. And I know, so my parents did too, all of them. I update them. Tim just said that is good to do, or not good. You're right, Tim, it isn't. But on the passwords, this is something that if people watching, I know will debate. I had a list. I do now of my passwords. I update it regularly. I'm giving you the copy of everything. My parents did. They updated it regularly and kept sending it to me, and I'd send it to my brother. But what's interesting is a lot of IT people will be like, no, people can get in and you need to have this system. Well, who's going to know that system to get in? So, I mean, what is your recommendation on that?
Well, I can tell you what I do personally. I have my computer. My family has the login information. And my computer is both personal and work. They do not have the login information to my work database, so they cannot get into any of my client files, but my paralegal has that, right? So they can reach out to her if they need to shut down my business.
Okay.
But all of my personal emails, then I have in a wallet on my computer. Because I did have a separate list and I was really bad about keeping them updated. So I would change them on my computer, but I'd forget to change them there. So I do have a wallet.
What is that?
I use and Apple has one that you can use. Yep. So I use the one that's on Mac.
Okay.
And you have to have the computer password to get into that. So and I know there are other ones. Yeah, there are other ones out there that you can buy, you can purchase as an app that are standalone, that are password protected. I have been told,
when you update it, it just goes into the wallet
and just automatically goes in. So we have a neighbor in our neighborhood that I love her dearly. All she does is very, very high tech security. I mean, stuff that is scary to me. It's what she does. And she basically said to me when I said to her, my clients, they worry about having the passwords, but it's so much easier for their family. And she goes, tell them not to worry about it, because if anybody wants to get in, she goes, I can get into anything on your computer in literally less than 30 seconds, no matter what you do.
I heard that too.
I go, oh, thanks. And she goes, I know it's kind of unnerving, but at the same time, it just substantiates your point that if anybody wants to get in, they're going to get in. At least make your family's life a little bit easier if you're not able
to rest easy. Yes. No, that makes sense. What else haven't we covered that the viewers, followers should know?
I know I have a couple of clients on there. You guys, is there something I missed?
Right. Yes. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's such a small world. Some of my favorite people are your clients, and I love it. And, few I knew, few I didn't know that were, but of course, they probably didn't know or probably assumed.
No, and I never say anything. So they piped up, they revealed themselves. So,
yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
We all love you.
I tell people, and I do this as well, that the other thing I would say is we do have, along with memorial instructions, we have your life and papers. So again, it's getting everything organized, not just the passwords, titles to cars, having, account statements, so that people just know, like a checklist. Okay, there's an account at Wells Fargo, there's one at Merrill Lynch. Putting all of that in one place. I have a show and tell.
Oh, yes, please. And I don't care how close your family is and how kind everybody is. I have seen, oh my gosh, look at this.
This is my death binder. So this is how I have it organized. So, I have the passwords over here for my family. Birth certificates, marriage certificates, things that they would need for the funeral home, for those types of things. I have, my trust is in here. My will is in here. My healthcare directive is in here. And I do have property information. So they have the transfer on death deed is in here. The deed that we have is in here.
Fantastic.
Life insurance information, my business stuff. So there's a second binder that you can't see behind me, which is all of my business stuff for succession planning. So I'm meeting with a client in a couple of weeks, and it was funny. I showed her this, and hers looks exactly like mine. She went on the decal and everything.
Oh gosh,
so
I love
however
it.
you want to do it. My parents have a little fireproof, like the file carry boxes. Important thing is that you keep it updated. So with my parents, every few years we go through that, and it's like, okay, what are old accounts that don't exist anymore? Where are the new
the fire thing you mentioned, because you don't, then it's.
So they have that. The one thing, and sometimes my mom hops on and listens to me. So the one thing I'm always saying is they have a key. They keep moving the key.
Okay. All right.
Don't move the key.
Right, because that can make
it's more my dad than my mom. It's more my dad than my mom. I'm always like, Dad, if you move the key, it doesn't help me because I can't get in. So please.
Well, and I can't stress enough. I know if you're struggling financially, you think, just call Tammy. At least get the conversation going and things get, moving in the right direction. As she knows, we met a year ago, February, and we just started mine when we were on vacation. And I kept saying, I'm sorry. And you're like, no, when you're ready. But then I realized, I need to make sure my ducks are in a row. And we finally did it. But where I'm going with this is I have known some of the most wonderful families, all levels, multi-millionaires to very few assets. You want to prevent, you think, even if you're very close and you all love each other, I have seen the craziest, ugliest, grossest things come out of people not having their ducks in a row, and it breaks my heart.
And it really comes into play too. I've had families that there might be what seem from the outside uneven distributions, but there's a reason for them. And I always say, again, it's that communication, because, if you can explain to your family why you did what you did while you're still alive, it doesn't leave in the back of their head, oh, did they love me less?
Right.
So it's having the ducks in a row and also preparing your family, or the opposite. I have a really funny story of I had a couple that became my clients years ago. They lived very, I mean, modestly, but were very wealthy. They had an estate tax issue in the state of Minnesota, and he passed away. And mom is still my client. I love her. But it was so funny because after he passed away, she started she put a new floor in the kitchen. She was remodeling this. She started giving away all these gifts. And I get a call from one of their adult daughters older than me. We think we're going to have to put mom in assisted living. I'm like, what? Yeah, she's just spending money. I don't think she understands. And I'm like, because I had told them time and time again, you don't have to tell them how much you're worth.
Right.
But please prepare them that they're going to have to do some estate tax planning because there's
Right.
going to be a chunk coming in.
Right.
And here they thought their mom had gone crazy and she hadn't. So we sat down, we had a conversation. Everybody was going, because they had lived so modestly that it was a surprise. So I do say, get your ducks in a row, have those conversations, and they're hard conversations. I take it for granted because I've been doing this for so long. My kids were raised in this atmosphere,
Right.
but there are even times where I have the conversation with my parents, like the funeral planning thing. Please get this done. I mean, so I acknowledge it's not easy, but it's the best gift you can give to your family from beyond.
Well, and we had a unique situation in my family, and you handled that so beautifully. You had my folks do videos.
Yes. Yep.
And I thought that was perfect because there, nothing was questioned, but if there ever was, there was a video, and that was brilliant. And I wasn't a part of that, and that was wonderful that you and them had taken care of everything, and it just makes everybody's life easier. If there is such a thing as easy when people pass, but there's so much involved, and people wonder, like, here I am 2 years, it's 4 years out from mom. And the last 2 years, logistically, through everything, have been the most difficult, as I told you at lunch the other day. Yes, the grief that, that's not linear. That comes and goes. I'm going to be emceeing this Saturday for the Lung Cancer Foundation walk, a Breath of Hope Lung Cancer Foundation walk. And just listening to the music and knowing my dad died of it, of course, you start to cry. But where I'm going with that is, it's not that stuff that is the most difficult. It's the logistics of stuff like this. And my parents had their ducks in a row, but there's things that come up that you can't, and you have to be smart and you have to plan, and it's hard. It can be very hard. So, start the planning, get the conversation going. Costs nothing to pick up a phone and call Tammy. And she is booking out to October. So give her a call now.
Yes, I think I said to Carla, I go, it's for us estate planning attorneys, it's the perfect storm because this was traditionally an older attorney's area of practice. They were more comfortable dealing with death, right? And at the same time, so now they're retiring. At the same time, we have the baby boomers. So, and so we have a number of people that are doing their planning later in life, but they're also passing away while we still have our young families that are trying to do their planning. And estate planning is not, and I told Carla this, I did not go to law school to be an estate planner. So it's not the flashy, whatever. I love what I do because
you're very good at it.
I help people. I do litigation as well. So I do get into the muck, but the majority, I'm able to help people. My job, I'm going to try not to tear up. My job has become harder because now I have clients that I've had for years. And as we have more and more diagnoses of cancer and longer term illnesses, I don't know if I want to say I'm privileged, but in the past 6 months, I've 3 clients. I was one of their last calls.
Yeah.
And which is an honor.
Well, and you'll be mine.
Yeah. It's an honor that they're calling me to thank me, to get that assurance before they move on, that everything is okay.
Right.
But it is, I have hard days.
Well, it's
Last
because
Friday was a hard day. I kept it together, and as soon as I pushed, I just sat and cried for 5 minutes, and then I had to
yeah.
get ready for that next client. So it
Jeez.
I have a very, as Carla knows, I'm a little unique, and I have a very relationship based clientele. I offer my clients annual check-ins. I get to know them. I go to their homes. Estate planning and traditionally has been very cut and dry. You come in, I meet with you once, we sign documents, and I'm done with you
Oh,
until
you have a heart and you care and you stay there.
it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's very rewarding when I get the, I met with one of my widower clients today. I'd known his wife, and, you know, only 20 minutes of our meeting was business, but, she passed away less than a year ago. And so it was, an hour of chatting, and I got this
Mhm.
beautiful thank you. And that was just an annual check-in. I wasn't earning any money, but I was able to help somebody that just wanted a little social time. So
Well, and you did that with me. I know my mom was afraid to let go because she was so close to my dad and she wanted to go be with my dad, but she didn't want to leave me alone. And because she knew that even though people say, "Oh, you're like family," or they'll pretend, when push comes to shove, you're not. And she knew that. And she was a very, very, very savvy, witty, funny, smart woman. And I know she had asked you to make sure I was okay. And Tammy did. Tammy made sure we got together at least once a month, as busy as she is, because my mom asked her to. She would have probably done it anyway, knowing Tammy, but to make sure I was okay. And that, I know, meant the world to me, still does. And I know helped her let go easily, a little bit easier, to go be with my dad. Yeah. So thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's all I've got yeah, that was a lot.
That was a lot. She originally said, "Oh, it'll be done in about a half hour." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think so." But I thank you for your time, because I know your time
Absolutely.
is valuable, and your clients, I know you're going back to work right now.
Yeah.
So, if someone wants to get a hold of you, I will put it in above us. A little bit of info of the video is a little bit of information. I'll go back in, but what's the best way to reach you?
I have a very long email, so which is Tammy TAMMY at TamaraBlockAttorney.net, or you can reach me 651-322-7527. For my Tennessee clients, yes, it is 651, not 615. So Nashville's area code is 615. So
Oh
a lot of
gosh.
times I'll say 651, and they'll go, "You mean 615?" No, 651.
So can I put that in the Okay,
Absolutely.
we're done.
You
I'll
can
go back in.
also, yeah, you can also on our website, we have a contact button, and so you can put a message in there.
I'll
It
put your
comes right,
website in there then.
yeah,
Best
it,
way.
it comes immediately to Jody is my paralegal. She's
Okay.
been my paralegal now for 5 years.
Yeah.
So Jody and I get those, and are able to respond to those as well.
Perfect. That's what I'll do, because that'll keep
Yeah.
it all together.
Yep. And
Wonderful.
all of our contact information is on the website too.
Oh, that's fantastic. Tammy, as always, it's such a wealth of information, so much wisdom to give people the tools and resources. And I appreciate you and your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I love the education piece, so I appreciate that.
Oh, I do too. I love to be able to share with all my viewers that I know are needing this information. And thank you all for tuning in. We go live on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central Time. So please join us again on a Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. right here on Around Town TV. We'll see you then.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night. Oh, let's see. And stream.